I welcome you all to my lecture number 13 on signals and systems for electronics and communication engineering students and for electronics and computer engineering students. Today I am going to discuss sampling process. The analog signals are also known as continuous time signals. The analog signals are sampled to give discrete time signals or sampled signals. These discrete time signals are quantized, and the output of the quantizer is converted to digital signal. Now here in this lecture, we are going to focus on sampling process. Now we will start with ideal sampling. Now look at this graph. Here the green colored signal is GT, which is continuous time signal, and G delta T is the discrete time signal or the sampled signal, which is obtained by sampling of GT. Now, the interval between two successive sampling points is capital TS as mentioned here. Now here, this point is indicating the amplitude of the sample. That is G and TS. Now consider, we start ideal sampling, that consider an analog signal GT that is continuous both in time and amplitude as shown in this graph. We assume that GT has infinite duration but finite energy. Let the sample values of the signal GT at time t is equal to 0, comma plus minus capital TS, comma plus minus 2 capital TS, and so on be denoted by the series G bracket NTS, where n is taking values 0, plus minus 1, plus minus 2, and so on. We refer to capital TS as the sampling period, here as shown in the plot. And Fs is equal to 1 by Ts is the sampling rate. Fs is equal to 1 by Ts is the sampling rate. Now, based on this discrete time signal plotted in the graph G delta T, we define the discrete time signal G delta T that results from sampling process is G delta T is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity, G bracket NTS into delta bracket T minus NTS. Mark it as equation A1. Now here in equation A, delta bracket T minus NTS is a direct delta function located at time T is equal to NTS. Now this is delayed impulse function, where delays n capital TS. In above equation, each delta function in the series is weighted by the corresponding sample value of the input signal GT. So this is the weight, G bracket NTS. From the definition of delta function, we have G bracket NTS into delta bracket T minus NTS is equal to GT into delta bracket T minus NTS. Mark it as equation A2. Now look at this. This is delayed impulse function, which is defined at T is equal to NTS. So instead of NTS here, I can put T. So that leads to equation A2. Now I am substituting A2 in A1, that is in equation A1, G bracket NTS into delta bracket T minus NTS is going to be replaced with GT delta bracket T minus NTS. And that leads to equation A3 as G delta T is equal to GT into summation n running from minus infinity to infinity delta bracket T minus NTS. Or I can write that G delta T is equal to GT into delta TS bracket T. Mark it as equation A4, where delta TS bracket T is the direct comb or ideal sampling function. We may view the discrete time signal delta G delta T. We may view the discrete time signal G delta T as the output of an impulse modulator, which operates with GT as the modulating wave and delta TS bracket T as the carrier wave. Now it is quite clear from equation A4 that G delta T is equal to GT into delta TS bracket T. So G delta T is the output of an impulse modulator. Now let capital GF and capital G delta F denote the Fourier transforms of GT and G delta T respectively. That is, Fourier transform of GT is GF and Fourier transform of G delta T is capital G delta F as shown. Now we have G delta T is equal to GT into delta TS bracket T. That is product of two signals in time domain. So their CTFT is equivalent to the linear convolution of GF linearly convolved with CTFT of delta TS bracket T. There, because we know that if two signals are multiplied in time domain, their CTFTs are going to be linearly convolved in frequency domain. Therefore, continuous time Fourier transform of G delta T is G delta F, that is equal to GF linearly convolved with CTFT of delta TS bracket T. Mark it as equation B1. Now we are concerned about this, that is CTFT of delta TS bracket T, which we have solved in the previous lecture, and taking the result from that, CTFT of delta TS bracket T is equal to summation M running from minus infinity to infinity 1 by Ts delta bracket F minus FSM. Mark it as equation B2. But we know that 1 by Ts is equal to Fs. So CTFT of delta Ts bracket T is equal to Fs summation M running from minus infinity to infinity delta bracket F minus MFS. Mark it as equation B3. Now from equation B1, I'm substituting the value of CTFT of delta Ts bracket T. G delta F is equal to GF linearly convolved with Fs summation M running from minus infinity to infinity delta bracket F minus MFS. So this forms equation B4. Now solving equation B4, I can get G delta bracket F is equal to Fs summation M running from minus infinity to infinity GF linearly convolved with delta bracket F minus MFS. Mark it as equation B5. Now we know that the convolution, how to operate the convolution. Now G delta F is equal to Fs summation M running from minus infinity to infinity G bracket F minus MFS. Mark it as equation B6. So that is based on the solution of B5. Now G delta F represents a spectrum that is periodic in frequency capital F with period capital Fs, but not necessarily continuous. Now this is very important. Based on equation B6, the process of uniform sampling a signal in time domain results in a periodic spectrum in the frequency domain with a period equal to the sampling rate Fs. Thus, G delta F represents a periodic extension of the original spectrum GF. Now, looking at this equation B6, here period is Fs. Now we will have its graphical view. Now the spectrum of signal GT is GF, that is plotted with respect to capital F here. The peak amplitude of GF is G0 and GF is non-zero in the range of frequencies that capital F lying in the range minus W to W hertz as shown. Now based on equation B5, spectrum of sampled signal G delta T is G delta F. And this is plotted for Fs is equal to 2W. It is noteworthy that I have plotted it for Fs is equal to 2W. Now the peak amplitude of G delta F is 2WG0 at F is equal to 0. Now look at this. This is the basic pattern in G delta F, which is repeating itself after a period of Fs in frequency domain. So as we have considered Fs is equal to 2W, then these patterns are non-overlapping. In practical applications, Fs is considered to be greater than equal to 2W. And more generally, Fs is kept very high. That is, Fs is kept higher than 2W. So based on this graphical representation, it is clear that the process of uniform sampling a signal in time domain results in a periodic spectrum in frequency domain with a period equal to the sampling rate Fs. Now another expression for the Fourier transform G delta F may be obtained by taking Fourier transform of the both sides of equation A1. Look at equation A1. Now this is equation A1. G delta T is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity G NTS into delta bracket T minus NTS. So taking CTFT directly, I can get equation C1 as G delta F is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity G and TS into integration from minus infinity to infinity delta bracket T minus NTS e raised from minus J2 pi capital FT dF. So G delta F is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity G bracket NTS e raised from minus J2 pi capital FTS n. Mark it as equation C2. Now we observe what is happening in equation C2. This relation may be viewed as a complex Fourier series representation of the periodic frequency function G delta F with the sequence of samples G and TS defining the coefficients of the expansion. So G delta F in equation C2, and this relation may be viewed as a complex Fourier series representation of periodic frequency function, this G delta F. Now the coefficients of expansion are G and TS here in C2. Now the statement of the sampling theorem. We may state the sampling theorem for the band limited signals of finite energy in two separate parts. Number one, if a finite energy signal GT contains no frequencies higher than W hertz, it is completely determined by specifying its ordinates at a sequence of points spaced 1 by 2 W seconds apart. 2. If a finite energy signal GT contains no frequencies higher than W hertz, it may be completely recovered from its ordinates at a sequence of points spaced 1 by 2 W seconds apart. I repeat, point number 1, if a finite energy signal GT contains no frequency higher than W hertz, it is completely determined by specifying its ordinate at a sequence of points spaced 1 by 2 W seconds apart. Point 2, if a finite energy signal GT contains no frequencies higher than W hertz, It may be completely recovered from its ordinates at a sequence of points spaced 1 by 2w seconds apart. Now, based on 1 and 2 and based on above analysis, I can state the minimum sampling rate of 2w samples per second for a signal bandwidth of w hertz is called the Nyquist rate. Correspondingly, the reciprocal 1 by 2w is called the Nyquist interval. I repeat, the minimum sampling rate of 2w samples per second for a signal bandwidth of w hertz is called Nyquist rate. Correspondingly, the reciprocal 1 by 2w is called the Nyquist interval. This is very, very important. Now I will plot, or I have plotted G delta F for Fs less than 2w. That what is going to happen if I am considering lower sampling rate that is less than 2w. Now this is the basic pattern which repeats itself after a period of Fs. Now I have considered Fs less than 2w. So these repeated patterns are overlapping on each other as shown on in the plot. And this shaded portion is aliasing or fold over portion, or aliased portion or fold over portion. When Fs is less than 2w, the phenomenon of a higher frequency in the spectrum of the original signal Gt, seemingly taking on the identity of a lower frequency in the spectrum of the sample signal Gt, is called aliasing or fold over. When this effect occurs, the information is inevitably lost in the sampling process. Now look at this graph. Now these patterns are overlapping here, and the mixing of frequency component is taking place, which is irreversible process. So the information content in this on this frequency components is lost forever. We cannot recover that. So to avoid aliasing, we consider very high sampling rate, that is Fs greater than 2w. Next is natural sampling. Let an arbitrary analog signal Gt be applied to a switching circuit controlled by a sampling function Ct that consists of an infinite succession of rectangular pulses of amplitude A, duration capital T, and occurring with period capital Ts. Now, this is analog signal Gt as shown. This is sampling function Ct. Here pulse is having amplitude A. Here each pulse is having amplitude A and duration capital T. The pulses are appearing periodically at time interval Ts. That is, Ct is periodic with time interval Ts. The output of the switching circuit is denoted by St, that is sampled signal, where St is equal to Ct into Gt. Now, Gt is multiplied by Ct to give St as shown. This is the sampled signal. Duration of each sample is capital T. Now here Fs equal to 1 by Ts is sampling rate, which is considered equal to fundamental frequency here in this equation D2. Now coming back to equation D1, Ct is equal to St is equal to Ct into Gt. That is equation D1. However, Ct may be expressed in the form of a complex Fourier series as Ct is equal to Fsta summation n running from minus infinity to infinity, sinc bracket n Fst e raised to power j 2 pi n Fs small t, mark it as equation D2 as shown. Now this is Fourier series representation of Ct in equation D2. So this is based on the Fourier series coefficients, and the Fourier series coefficients here are An is equal to 1 by Ts integration from minus t by 2 to t by 2 a e raised to minus j2 pi capital F S n small t dt. These are Fourier series coefficients. It is noteworthy that we have considered fundamental frequency as Fs here for Fourier series representation of Ct. Now an is equal to capital Fsa integration from minus t by 2 to t by 2 e raised to minus j2 pi capital Fs n t dt. Now following the integration, conventional integration procedure here, I can get an is equal to capital Fs Ta into sinc bracket n Fs t as shown. So D2 is found to be correct as per the Fourier series representation depiction. But here fundamental frequency is Fs. Now St is rewritten as, or consequently St is capital Fsta summation n running from minus infinity to infinity sinc bracket n capital Fs capital T e raised to power j2 pi n capital Fs small t into gt. Mark it as equation D3. Taking the Fourier transform of both sides of above equation and using the frequency shifting property of Fourier transform, we get SF. Here, SF. Now, based on this, ST is equal to CT into GT. And its CTFT is SF, which is equal to CF linearly convolved with GF. Because we know that if two signals are multiplied in time domain, their CTFTs are going to be linearly convolved in frequency domain. So SF is equal to CF linearly convolved with GF. But here we are taking Fourier transform of D3 and finding SF equal to FSTA summation m running from minus infinity to infinity sinc bracket m capital Fs capital T into G bracket F minus MFS. That is based on equation D3. So we have calculated SF as equation D4. Now this is the corresponding graph that illustrating the effect of using ordinary pulses on finite duration on the spectrum of sample signal when GF, the spectrum of GF is as shown, that is a maximum amplitude of GF is G0 at F is equal to 0 and GF is non-zero for F lying in the range minus W to W only. And correspondingly, SF will be as shown here. Now look at this. This graph is plotted for Fs is equal to 2W with no aliasing. We are considering no aliasing, so Fs is equal to 2W. So if GF is like this, then SF will be like this, as shown. This illustrates the effect of using ordinary pulses of finite duration on the spectrum of sample signal. We see that from this graph of SF with respect to F, we see that the effect of the finite duration of sampling pulses is to multiply the nth lobe of the spectrum SF by capital TA by TS into sinc bracket NFS capital T. Now look at this. This is the multiplication factor sinc bracket M capital Fs capital T, and its effect is here visible in the spectrum of SF with respect to F. SF is plotted when GF is given like this, as shown on the screen. Now consider a case when capital TA is equal to 1. Look at this. Capital TA is equal to 1 here. Consider a case when TA is equal to 1 so that each rectangular pulse of the sampling function has unit area. Therefore, as the pulse duration capital T approaches 0, capital SF approaches G delta F. In other words, the discrete time signal G delta T produced by ideal sampling represents the limiting form of the sampled signal ST. as capital T tends to 0 with capital TA is equal to 1. So in this equation D4, if TA is equal to 1 and capital T tends to 0, then this function will give value 1. And now D4 will be equal to the results as produced in the ideal sampling. In other words, the discrete time signal G delta T produced by ideal sampling represents a limiting form of the sample signal ST as capital T tends to 0 with TA is equal to 1. Now next is flat top sampling. The analog signal GT is sampled instantaneously at the rate Fs equal to 1 by Ts, and the duration of each sample is lengthened to capital T. Now here strategies opted in sampling for flat top sampling is quite different. That is, the analog signal GT is sampled instantaneously at the rate Fs equal to 1 by Ts, and the duration of each sample is lengthened to capital T. Using ST to denote the sequence of flat top pulses generated in this way, we may write ST is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity, G bracket NTS, H bracket T minus NTS, mark it as J1. Now look at this, HT is equal to 1 for small t lying in the range 0 to capital T, and HT is equal to 0 for t less than 0 and small t greater than capital T. Mark it as J2. So HT is rectangular function bracket T by capital T minus 1 by 2. Now here I have shown flat top samples. Look at this, GT is the continuous time signal and ST is the sampled signal. Now this amplitude is retained for a period of capital T. And these pulses, these samples are appearing at a rate of Fs. So this is flat top sample ST, and this is continuous time signal GT as shown on the screen. Now this HT is defined as 1 for small t lying in the range 0 to 2t and 0 otherwise. Now this is plotted here, HT is plotted here. HT is having amplitude 1 from 0 to capital T only. Now its CTFT is calculated and the magnitude response, that is magnitude HF versus capital F, is plotted here, and phase response of HF is plotted here, that is angle of HF with respect to F is plotted here. Here coming back to the main article, the discrete time signal G delta T obtained by instantaneously sampling GT is given by G delta T is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity G bracket NTS into delta bracket T minus NTS. Now this point shows the result of instantaneous sampling, and then it is this sample value is lengthened to capital T as mentioned here. The duration of each sample is lengthened to capital T. Now convolving G delta T with HT, we get G delta T linearly convolved with HT is equal to integration from minus infinity to infinity G delta tau H bracket T minus tau D tau. My denote this equation as J4. Now this is equal to integration from minus infinity to infinity summation n running from minus infinity to infinity G bracket NTS into delta bracket tau minus NTS into H bracket T minus tau D tau. Now interchanging the position of integration and summation, we can write this equation as equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity G bracket NTS integration from minus infinity to infinity delta bracket tau minus NTS into H bracket T minus tau D tau. Mark it as equation J5. Now we know that this delayed impulse, that is delta tau minus NTS, is defined as tau is equal to NTS. So I will substitute tau is equal to NTS here, and I get from the shifting property of delta function, we have G delta t linearly convolved with HT is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity G NTS into H bracket t minus NTS. But we know that ST is equal to, that is sampled signal, flat top samples, ST, flat top sample, ST, here indicated in the graph. But we know that sample signal ST is equal to G delta t linearly convolved with HT. Now I'm taking it CTFT, that is equal to SF, and that is equal to G delta F HF. So SF is equal to G delta F HF, mark it as equation K1. Consequently, SF is equal to, we know that what is G delta F, we have already derived. So SF is equal to Fs summation M running from minus infinity to infinity G bracket F minus MFS into HF. Now from the CTFT of this function HT, I have HF that is equal to capital T sinc bracket FT e raised to minus J pi FT, mark it as K3 here. Substitute HF here. Hence, we observe that by using flat top samples, we have introduced amplitude distortion as well as a delay of T by 2. Now, this is going to create amplitude distortion, and there is a delay observed through equation K3, that is a delay of T by 2. This distortion caused by lengthening of samples is referred to as the aperture effect. This distortion may be corrected by connecting an equalizer in cascade with the low pass reconstruction filter. Ideally, the amplitude response of the equalizer is given by 1 by magnitude HF, that is equal to 1 by capital T sinc bracket FT, that is equal to 1 by capital T pi capital FT by sine bracket pi FT, and that is equal to pi F divided by sine bracket pi FT, mark it as K4. Now this low pass reconstruction filter we will study in detail in next course on DSP. If you are interested right now, you can refer to my online lecture series on DSP. Now next is quantization process. The amplitude quantization is defined as the process of transforming the sample amplitude M bracket NTS of a massive signal MT at time t is equal to NTS into a discrete amplitude V bracket NTS taken from a finite set of possible amplitudes. Now this is very important. The amplitude quantization is defined as the process of transforming the sample amplitude M bracket NTS of a massive signal MT at time t is equal to NTS into a discrete amplitude VNTS taken from a finite set of possible amplitudes. We assume that the quantization process is memoryless and instantaneous, which means that the transformation at time t is equal to NTS is not affected by earlier or later samples of the massive signal. This simple form of quantization is commonly used in practice. Now look at this. This is the block indicating quantizer with system function G. Now input is discrete time sample M and the output is quantized discrete sample V. This is memoryless quantizer and this is of uniform type. Now look at these ranges. That IK is indicating one range, that is kth range. That is from MK to MK plus 1 and the middle point is VK in the uniform quantizer. And the distance between point mk and mk plus 1 is delta. And as this is uniform quantizer, so distance between vk and vk plus 1 is delta. Now, we are using the symbol m in place of m bracket NTS. The signal amplitude m is specified by the index k if it lies inside the interval ik, here in this interval ik, such that the interval ik is having range, that is m lying in the range from mk to mk plus 1 for k 1, 2, 3 to L. Mark it as y1. So I repeat, the signal amplitude m is specified by index k if it lies inside the interval ik, this interval that spans from mk to mk plus 1, where capital L is the total number of amplitude levels used in the quantizer. Here the amplitude mk, that is for k is equal to 1, 2, 3 to L, are called decision levels or decision thresholds. This mk is decision threshold or decision level. At the quantizer output, the index k is transformed into an amplitude vk that represents all amplitude in the interval ik. I repeat, at the quantizer output, the index k is transformed into an amplitude vk that represents all amplitude of the interval ik. So any m lying in this range is mapped to vk. If m is lying in the range ik or in interval ik, that m is mapped to vk at quantizer output. The amplitude vk for k is equal to 1, 2, 3 to L are called representation levels or reconstruction levels. And the spacing between two adjacent representation levels is called the quantum or step size. Here, this delta is quantum or step size. Thus, the quantizer output V equals Vk if the input signal sample m belongs to the interval ik. So I have discussed that if m belongs to this interval ik, then the value assigned is Vk by the quantizer. The mapping V is equal to G bracket m is represented as equation y2 is the quantizer characteristic, which is a staircase function by definition. Now in uniform quantizer, the representation levels are uniformly spaced. Now major two types are here. One is mid-thread type uniform quantizer. This is symmetric about origin. And other is mid-rise type uniform quantizer, which is symmetric about origin. Now here on x-axis, I have plotted input level. On y-axis, I have plotted output level. Now in mid-thread type, it is called mid-thread type uniform quantizer because the origin lies in the middle of a thread of the staircase-like graph. Now in the second graph, that is mid-rise type uniform quantizer, it is called the mid-rise type uniform quantizer because origin lies in the middle of rising part of the staircase-like graph. Here, look at this. So this is input level, this is output level. There are two types, major types of uniform quantizer, mid-thread type uniform quantizer, and second is mid-rise type uniform quantizer. Now we will talk about quantization noise. The use of quantization introduces an error defined as the difference between the input signal M and the output signal V. This error is called quantization noise, and it is noteworthy that quantization is an irreversible process. Let the quantizer input M be the sample value of a zero mean random variable capital M. Let the quantizer input small m be the sample value of a zero mean random variable capital M. Now, a quantizer with function g maps the input random variable capital M of sampled amplitude into a discrete random variable capital V, and their respective sample values small m and small v are related by equation y2 we have just discussed. Let the quantization error be denoted by random variable capital Q of sample value small q. We may thus write small q is equal to small m minus small v, marked as y3. And equivalently, capital Q is equal to capital M minus capital V, that is equation y4. With the input capital M having zero mean, the quantizer assumed to be symmetric, it follows that the quantizer output capital V and therefore the quantization error capital Q will also have zero mean. This is based on the statistical analysis of random variables. Consider an input small m of sampled amplitude in the range from minus m maximum to plus m maximum with variance sigma m square is equal to pm. Now I repeat, this is very important. Consider an input small m of sampled amplitude in the range minus m maximum to plus m maximum with variance sigma m square is equal to pm. Assuming a uniform quantizer of mid-rise type, we find that the step size of quantizer is given by delta is equal to 2m maximum by L, marked as equation y5, where L is the total number of representation levels. For a uniform quantizer, the quantization error Q, capital Q, will have its sample values bounded by this ring. That is, small q is lying in the range minus delta by 2 to delta by 2. If the step size delta is sufficiently small, that is, the number of representation levels is sufficiently large, here in equation y5, if L is large, delta is small, it is reasonable to assume that the quantization error capital Q is a uniformly distributed random variable. We may express the probability density function of the quantization error capital Q as follows, that is, F capital Q bracket small q is equal to 1 by delta for q lying in the range minus delta by 2 to delta by 2, and this is 0 otherwise. So mark it as equation y6 as shown on the screen. This is F capital Q small q is probability density function of quantization error capital Q. The mean of the quantization error being 0, its variance sigma q square is the same as the mean squared value. That is, sigma q square is equal to expectation of q square, and that is equal to integration from delta by 2 to delta by 2 q square f q capital Q bracket small q dq y7. This is equation y7. Now solution of this equation leads to sigma q square is equal to 1 by delta. I have substituted this value, that is value for f capital Q here. Sigma q square is equal to 1 by delta, integration from minus delta by 2 delta by 2, q square dq, and that is equal to delta square by 12. Mark it as equation y8. Let n denote the number of bits per sample used in the construction of binary code, that is digital signal, which results in capital L is equal to 2 raised to power n. That is equation y9. So equivalently, n is equal to log 2 log with base 2 L, marked as equation y10. I repeat, let n denote the number of bits per sample used in the construction of the binary code, that is digital signal, which results in capital L is equal to 2 raised to power n. And this leads to n is equal to log with base 2 L, that is y10, So we can express step size as delta is equal to 2m maximum by 2 raised to power n, marked as equation y11. So let me check what is the formula for delta. Delta is equal to m maximum by L. So L is equal to 2 raised to the power n here. Mark it as equation y11. Now the variance of quantization noise is sigma q square is equal to 1 by 3 m max square 2 raised to power minus 2n. Mark it as y12. What I have done, in sigma q square delta square by 12, I have substituted the value of delta. So delta is substituted here in y8. So that leads to sigma q square is equal to 1 by 3 m max square 2 raised to power minus 2n. That is equation y12. Consequently, the signal to quantization noise ratio, that is SQNR, is sigma m square by sigma q square, and that is equal to PM by sigma q square. Therefore, the signal to quantization noise ratio is finally SQNR equal to 3 sigma m square by m max square into 2 raised to power 2n, marked as y13. So this is the final formula, that is equation y3 represents the final formula for signal to quantization noise ratio determination, that is equal to 3 sigma m square by m max square into 2 raised to the power 2n into 2 raised to power 2n, that is equation y13. So here we have formula for signal to quantization noise ratio. For uniform quantizer. Now you can substitute the value of sigma m square, substitute the value of n, substitute the value of m max square according to the design and given attributes, and calculate the value of SQNR. This is very important formula. And that's all for today's lecture. These are the reference books. This is the main textbook, that textbook, that is Signal and System by A.V. Oppenheim and by A.S. Wilsky and by S.H. Nawab. And you can refer to other reference books also. Thanks for attending this session on signals and systems. See you in next lecture. Have a nice day.